Okay, today, what we are doing, we are going to be solving these quadratic equations by what's called completing the square. We're skipping problems 1, 2, and 3 because we just did 2 examples in class when we went over your homework questions. So, starting with number 4, we need to, what did the instructions say? Complete the square? Yes, we need to complete the square. So what that means is we need to figure out what is the missing term to make that become a perfect square trinomial. And there's a formula that we'll use every single time to complete that perfect square trinomial. And that formula is b divided by 2 squared. And you need to memorize this because it is not on our formula chart. And you need to have this memorized for our test next Wednesday. B divided by 2 squared. Test next Wednesday. Wednesday.
When do I have to have my paper for tomorrow?
By the test. Okay. So, where is that b? What is this b that they're talking about in the formula? And that comes from standard form. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So, in that formula, the b value comes from the coefficient from the x term. So, whatever number is in front of x, divided by 2, and then square it. And that will complete our perfect square trinomial. So, use that formula for every problem on this notes as well as the assignment. So to complete the square, here's the formula to complete the square. It's b divided by 2 squared. And the b value, what number is in front of x? In front of the x? 10. We're on problem 4. We are skipping from 1, 2, and 3. We're on number 4. So what is for number 4? Again, what is the b value? 10. That b value needs to be divided by 2 and then square it. PEMDAS, do the parentheses first. So what is 10 divided by 2? 5. And what is 5 squared? 25. So 25 is a missing term that makes that trinomial a perfect square trinomial. That's the answer. The answer was 25. Next one, number 5. We are completing that square. So the formula to complete the square is b divided by 2 squared. What is the b value? 4 divided by 2 and then square it. So PEMDAS, do the parentheses first.
Are you dividing it by 2 versus 3?
We're dividing it by 2 every single time. That's the formula. So you take the b value divided by 2 every single time and then square it.
So 2 squared is 4.
So what is 4 divided by 2?
2.
And 2 squared is
4.
4. So the missing term to complete the square is 4. Next one, number 6. The formula to complete the square is b divided by 2 and square it. What is the b value? Negative 14 divided by 2 and then square it. Parentheses first. What's negative 14 divided by 2? Negative 7. What is negative 7 squared? 49. 49 is a missing number to complete that square. Now the rest of these are now going to become equations. So now we are going to solve these equations by completing the square. So what we'll have to do first is we'll have to find the number to complete the square. Once we find that number that completes the square, we need to add it 1 time to the left side and 1 time to the right side. So that is what you have to do. Whatever is added to the left side, in order to keep the equation true, you also have to add it to the right side. And one thing I do need to point out, this will always be adding that number that completes the square. If I would go back to number 6, what happens when you square a negative? It becomes positive. And what happens when you square a positive? Your answer is positive. So this answer, whenever you complete the square, this answer is always positive. Doesn't matter if you square a negative or you square a positive. The answer is always going to be positive.
Your portion has to be zero.
No, the equation does not have to equal 0. That's for factoring. Okay, number 7. The first thing we have to do is find the number that completes the square. So we need to do b divided by 2 and square it. So what number do I use for b? The 6 divided by 2 and square it. What is 6 divided by 2? 3. And what is 3 squared? 9. So 9 is the number that completes the square. So we need to add it 1 time to the left side and 1 time to the right side. So these first 3 examples have the blanks to help us remember. If I add it to the left side, I need to add it to the right side. Now it's going to be what we did yesterday. So for the left side, we need to factor that perfect square trinomial. So put your parentheses with the square. And on the right side, combine these with 27 plus 9.
36.
36. Now, just like yesterday, to factor the perfect square trinomial, square root the first term, square root the last term, keep the sign at the middle term.
X plus 3.
Yeah, so inside the parentheses we'll have x plus 3. Solving for x, what is the opposite of squaring? Square rooting. So we need to square root the left side, square root the right side.
X plus 3.
And what happens when you square root the square?
They cancel out.
It cancels. So bring down your x plus 3. And what is the square root of 36?
6.
Plus or minus 6. What's the next step?
That's subtracted 3.
Subtract 3 to both sides. So that would be x equals negative 3 plus or minus 6. Now to get our 2 answers, to get the first answer, do the addition. So it's negative 3 plus 6. 3. To get the subtraction answer, what is negative 3 minus 6?
Negative 9.
Negative 9. So the 2 answers are positive 3 and negative 9. So similar to what we did yesterday, but the extra step is we have to complete the square and add that number to both sides. Next one, number 8. First thing we have to do is complete the square. So use your formula, b divided by 2 squared. What number do I use for b? 4 divided by 2, then square it. So what's 4 divided by 2?
2.
2, and 2 squared is 4. So that missing number, we have to add it 1 time to the left side, 1 time to the right side. Now factor the perfect square trinomial, so put the parentheses with the square. And on the right side, what is 6 plus 4? 10. And when you factor the perfect square trinomial, square root the first one, square root the last one, plus sign in the middle.
X plus 2.
X plus 2. Get rid of the square, so what's the opposite of squaring? Square root both sides. And what happens when you square root a square?
It cancels out.
They cancel, so bring down your x plus 10. And that equals, when I take the square root, make sure that you have your 2 answers. So this needs to be plus or minus square root of 10.
Oh, so now you gotta, man, multiplication. Like,
To get the x by itself, what's the opposite of add to?
subtract 2.
Subtract 2 to both sides.
I thought you could do that too.
So this would give us x equals negative 2
Plus or minus.
plus or minus square root of 10. So leave those separate. Just like yesterday, check your radical to see if it simplifies. So can I simplify square root of 10?
No.
No. So those are the answers. Negative 2 plus or minus square root of 10. Okay, number 9. We need to complete the square, so do b divided by 2 and square it. What do I use for b? 2. What's 2 divided by 1?
1.
1, and what is 1 squared?
That's 2.
Let me write it out so you can see it.
Oh, one.
b divided by 2 squared. What did we say the b value was? 2 divided by 2, then square it. What is 2 divided by 2? 1. And what is 1 squared? 1. That 1, add it 1 time to the left side, add it 1 time to the right side. Now we're ready to factor our perfect square trinomial, so put the parentheses with the square. And on the right side was negative 3 plus 1. Negative 2. Factor the perfect square trinomial, so square root the first one, square root the last one, keep the sign in the middle. So what goes in the parentheses? X plus 1. And what's the opposite of squaring? Square rooted, so square root the left side, square root the right side. And what happens when you square root a square? They cancel, so bring down your x plus 1 and the equal sign, and this would be plus or minus square root of negative 2. How do we get rid of the plus 1? Subtract 1 to both sides. So x equals negative 1 plus or minus the square root of negative 2. Check your radical. Is that radical in simplest form?
No.
No, so we need to simplify that radical. And if it's negative, what should be the first factor? Negative 1. Okay, so this is negative 1 times 2. Mark out the negative 1. What's the square root of negative 1? I. So the answer is x equals negative 1 plus or minus I square root of 2.
What number are we on?
We are on number 9.
Oh, I thought we were talking about it. No, I was about to.
Okay, number 10. Number 10, now we do not have the blanks. We need to remember whatever is the missing term to complete the square has to be added 1 time to the left side and 1 time to the right side. So to complete the square, what's the formula? B divided by 2 squared. So what do I put for B? Negative 12 divided by 2, then square. What's negative 12 divided by 2?
6.
Negative 6, and when you square a negative, it becomes positive 36. Now, that 36 has to be added 1 time to the left side, 1 time to the right side.
Even when it's not there, we always gotta add it.
Yes, to keep the equation balanced, whatever you do to the left side, you also have to do to the right side. Go ahead and factor that perfect square trinomial. Square root the first one, square root the last one. Keep the sign of the middle, so what goes in the parentheses?
X plus 4.
X minus 6. And on the right side was negative 20 plus 36. 16. How do I get rid of the square? Square root it. So square root the left side, square root the right side. And what happens when we square root the square? They cancel, so bring down your x minus 6. And what's the square root of 16?
4.
Plus or minus 4. What do I do next?
You gotta subtract, add 6.
Add 6 to both sides. So that gives us x equals 6 plus or minus 4. Write your 2 answers. So for the first answer, do the addition. So it's 6 plus 4. subtraction. What is 6 minus 4? 2. So 10 and 2 are the two solutions.
Yeah, boy.
Number 11, we need to find a number that completes the square. So what's the formula for completing the square? B divided by 2 squared. What number do we put for B? 6 divided by 2, then square it. So what's 6 divided by 2? 3. And what is 3 squared? 9. What do I do with that 9? Add it to both sides. So that would be x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 15 plus 9. So make sure that missing number is added 1 time to the left side, 1 time to the right side. Back to the perfect square trinomial. Square root the first one, square root the last one. Keep the sign in the middle. So what goes in the parentheses? X plus 3. And what's 16 plus 9? 24. And the opposite of squaring. Square root both sides. And what happens when we square root the square? That cancels. So bring down your x plus 3. That equals plus or minus the square root of 24. Now 24 we'll simplify the radical at the very end. But how do I get rid of the plus 3? Subtract 3 to both sides. So x equals negative 3 plus or minus square root of 24. And again, make sure your radical is always in simplest form. So this one does simplify. And what is the perfect square for 24? Yeah, we need 4 times 6. And mark out the 4. What's the square root of 4? 2. So the answer is x equals negative 3 plus or minus 2 square root of 6. Number 12. First thing we need to do is find the missing value. So we need to do b divided by 2 squared. What's the b value? 4 divided by 2, and then square it. So what's 4 divided by 2? 2, and 2 squared is 4. What do I do with that 4? Add it to both sides. So this would be x squared plus 4x plus 4 is equal to negative 8 plus 4. So make sure you added it to both sides. And when we factor that perfect square trinomial, what goes in the parentheses? X plus 2. And on the right side, what's negative 8 plus 4? Negative 4. How do we get rid of the square? Square root both sides. What happens when you square root a square? They cancel, so bring down your x plus 2. And that equals plus or minus the square root of negative 4. What's the next step? Subtract 2 to both sides, which is x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 4. Is that radical in simplest form? No. If it's a negative, what should be the first factor? Negative 1. So x equals negative 2 plus or minus negative 1 times 4 under that square root. Mark out the negative 1. What's the square root of negative 1? Pi. Mark out the 4, the square root of 4 is 2. So the answer is x equals -2 plus or minus 2i. Okay, up until this point, when we were solving these, there were 7 through 12. All of these were in the correct format for completing the square. And the correct format for completing the square is x squared plus bx equals c. So for completing the square, the only thing that should be on the left side should be the x's. The constant needs to be on the right. So looking at number 13, is this one in the correct format? No, if only the x's should be on the left side, what needs to move? 34. What happens to 34 when I move it to the other side? It becomes -34. So get it in the correct format to complete the square. X is on the left, constant on the right. Now we need to find a number that completes the square. So what is b? 6 divided by 2. What does that give you? 3. And what is 3 squared? 9. What do I do with 9? Add it to both sides. So that would be x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals -34 plus 9. So make sure that 9 is added 1 time to the left and 1 time to the right. Back to the perfect square trinomial, what goes in the parentheses? X plus 3. And what is -34 plus 9? -25. How do I get rid of the square? Square root it. So if you square root the left side, you also need to square root the right side. What happens when we square root the square? Cancel. So bring down the x plus 3 and plus or minus square root of -25. What's next? Subtract the 3 to both sides. So x equals -3 plus or minus the square root of -25. Is that radical in simplest form? No. If it's negative, what should be the first factor? -1 times 25. Mark out the -1. What's the square root of -1? I. Mark out the 5. Mark out the 25. The square root of 25 is 5. So x equals -3 plus or minus 5i. Number 14. Is this one in the correct format to complete the square? No, you should have x's on the left, constant on the right. So what needs to move? -12. What happens to -12 when I move it to the other side? It becomes +12. I want you to finish number 14.
Miss Lawson.
Yes. We're on the back. What happened here? Yeah, 2, you can, at 2.
Maybe some.
Okay, so you have Okay, number 14, the first thing you should have done was found the numbers to complete the square. So what is 16 divided by 2? 8. What is 8 squared?
Oh, yeah.
64. What do I do with that 64? Add it to both sides. So this would be x squared plus 16x plus 64 equals 12 plus 64. Back to the perfect square trinomial, and what goes inside the parentheses?
Ms. Lawson, you made the deal.
And 12 plus 64 is 76, and what went inside the parentheses? X plus 8. The opposite of squaring would be square root both sides. So that gives us x plus 8 equals plus or minus the square root of 76. What's next? Subtract 8 to both sides. So x equals negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 76. Check your radical. Can square root of 76 simplify? Yes.
Yes.
What was the perfect square for 76? 4 times 19.
What's going to happen next week?
This would be on the calculator test again. Mark out the 4. What's the square root of 4? 2. Final answer is x equals negative 8 plus or minus 2 square root of 19. So check your radicals to see if they simplify. Okay, last one. Number 15. Is this in the correct format? No, what needs to move? Negative 13. What happens to negative 13 when we move it to the other side? It becomes positive 13. We need to complete the square. So what is b divided by, well, first of all, what is b? 10. What's 10 divided by 2? 5. And when you square 5, it gives you 25. What do I do with the 25? Add to both sides. So x squared plus 10x plus 25 equals 13 plus 25. What do I do next? Yes, back to the perfect square trinomial. So inside the parentheses should be x plus 5 squared. And what's 13 plus 25? 38. And the opposite of squaring would be? Square root both sides. So that gives us x plus 5 equals plus or minus square root of 38. What's next? Subtract 5 to both sides. So x equals negative 5 plus or minus square root of 38. Check your radical. Is there a perfect square for 38? No. No, so that's the answer, and simplest form.